Oh boy, do we have some exciting news. It looks like SanDisk just recently announced that they're going to be making a 1 terabyte SD card for the very first time. If you're a tech enthusiast or you love this kind of stuff, this is some pretty breaking news that SanDisk is going to be making a 1 terabyte SD card. Now I'm going to tell you what everybody else tells you on the internet when it comes to SD cards and when it comes to storage and things like that. I can safely say that this thing, when it first launches, is not going to be worth the money. I'm not going to tell you what it goes for. Just know that it's not worth the money when this thing comes out on the market initially. But two things that make me super excited about SanDisk actually making a 1 terabyte micro SD card for the first time. One, that means we will be getting a 1 terabyte micro SD card, because I think prior to this there was no option for a 1 terabyte micro SD card. I do know SanDisk did actually release, I think, a 512 micro SD card, so that was some exciting news. But to get 1 terabyte for the first time ever, I think on planet Earth, correct me if I'm wrong, is just some super exciting news for tech enthusiasts. I remember every time I would go to a store, somebody would ask for 1 terabyte, or somebody will want it for their cell phone, for the Nintendo Switch, or whatever the case may be. They would always say, unfortunately, there's not an option. So to have an option finally for 1 terabyte is flat out amazing, even though it is expensive. Going back to the SD card really quickly, also, there is going to be two variants of this SD card. There's going to be a normal one, which will support 4K, and then they will have an extreme speed if you want to pay for the extreme speed. Obviously, the extreme speed is going to be so much money, it's not even worth it. Like I said before, the main 1 terabyte SanDisk SD card is not worth it in the first place, just because it's way too expensive for what it is. And then on top of this being the first 1 terabyte SD card, I think, on planet Earth at the moment from SanDisk, is the fact that another thing that makes this so amazing is the fact that now that they have a 1 terabyte option coming out, that will mean that the other SD cards that are very high in storage will be driven down, due to the fact that they are going to be making a 1 terabyte SD card. And just the fact they also are making a 1 terabyte SD card for the first time also means that in the future, maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, this thing will become cheaper. Because you do remember when SD cards first came out, I actually remember back in the day when I was like in the mid 2000s or even early 2000s, when SD cards were becoming prevalent and things like that. I remember even 1 and 2 gig SD cards being super expensive, to where a lot of people just could not afford them. They were just out of people's budgets and things like that. And then what happened when new SD cards come out? Of course, higher capacity, those prices are driven down. So of course, there will be a point one day where 1 terabyte will be cheap enough to where a lot of people will want to buy it, and it will be worth the money. And like I said, the other SD cards that are high mass storage will be going down in price as well. So hopefully, by having this 1 terabyte SD card floating around now that SanDisk is going to be producing, that should mean that the 512 gigabyte SD card should be going down in price in theory, and the other one should be going down in price. I think right now you can get the 256 one or even the 400 gig SD card for super cheap. I think I saw one deal for the 400 gig SD card for about $90. Yes, that's kind of expensive, but it's not to the point to where that you're not going to want to pull the trigger on it. I would assume some people would want to pull the trigger on this. Now, when it comes to this 1 terabyte SD card, who would actually want a 1 terabyte SD card? Immediately, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is going to be the Nintendo Switch crowd. The Nintendo Switch crowd always wants the more storage for the Nintendo Switch, since the Nintendo Switch does come with a measly 32 gig, and you're taking in consideration it's pretty much a console just like an Xbox, just like a PS4, so it would make sense that you would want something like that in your Nintendo Switch. But as it stands right now, it's just not worth the price. When this 1 terabyte hits the market, it's just not worth it. Whether you're a Nintendo Switch owner, or whether you're a cell phone owner, or whether you're a camera owner, no matter what you are, and no matter what type of device you have to support this 1 terabyte SD card, at the moment it comes out, do not pull the trigger. Of course, if you're buttloads rich and if you don't value your money, then of course you can go ahead and buy this thing. I'm not telling you you can't buy this thing and you shouldn't buy this thing. If you have your eyes set out for this 1 terabyte SD card, then of course you're going to pull the trigger on this 1 terabyte SD card from SanDisk. But at the moment it's just too high. But it is some pretty breaking news, and I'm super excited that SanDisk finally decided to make a 1 terabyte SD card, and I finally think the technology is finally there. That's probably why we never had a 1 terabyte option to begin with, just because technology wasn't ready to make one, and it's very hard to put that many gigs in a very tiny micro SD card. And that's actually some pretty great advancements when it comes to chip sizes and things like that. So That's pretty freaking amazing. And then later on, we could see things like 2 terabyte rollout and things like that. I never thought that we would actually ever get a 1 terabyte in a micro SD card size. That's actually pretty mind-blowing if you think about it, considering that that's the type of space you would actually see on a normal laptop or a normal desktop and things like that. You would never think things like cell phones would have 1 terabyte in them. You'd never think things like the Nintendo Switch would have 1 terabyte. A little micro SD card having 1 freaking terabyte on it is absolutely mind-blowing, honestly. And honestly, this is very good news that SanDisk is deciding to make a 1 terabyte micro SD card. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from MyTech News, signing out.